All right, in this video, I want to take a look at UConn, but yes, I have a bit of a Luke Skywalker problem, as I always tend to look at the future.
All his life as he looked away to the future.
And well, I'm going to do this a bit in this video regarding UConn. Yes, I know UConn fans will probably kill me and say, hey, let's focus on the good. We're 7-0. Let's talk about this. We've rebounded nicely from all of the injuries, with the latest one being to Aubrey Griffin. Why don't you focus on that? And well, I think it's basically because UConn is in a bit of a holding pattern right now, as they will continue to dominate the Big East. It looks like I don't think they're going to get a lot of threats. They'll be a top 16 seed, so they'll get the first two home games at UConn during the tournament in March. But the real question for them is, how will they go against Notre Dame, which would be a nice little win, as well as how will they fare against South Carolina when they face off against them in February, as that could really propel them. If they put on a good showing and win that game, that could throw them into a top seed, which would be nice for UConn, as it would allow them to stay home in Albany, New York, versus go across the country to Portland. If they do pull that off, then stand by for the Muffet McGraw angry tweet telling everybody how unfair it is that UConn always gets to play at home through March Madness. But even if UConn's dream scenario does play out, they are a very vulnerable team, as they are very dependent on winning the shooting battle. And if they have an off night with their three-point shooting, then they will struggle, as they're not going to crush teams on the boards like UCLA tonight. UCLA was able to grind out a win in Colorado, as they beat them on the boards comprehensively, 44-27, which made up for the fact that Colorado shot a higher percentage from the field and three-point line. But you never know, as it's a one-game scenario in the NCAA tournament. Plus, you have Paige Bueckers, and as I say, if you have Paige Bueckers, then you have a chance. There's no doubt about that. But in truth, you probably felt a little bit better about that prior to Aubrey Griffin going down, because now, instead of being heavily dependent on two freshmen, KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade, who have played extremely well as freshmen, now you are also extremely dependent on Cadence Samuels and Ice Brady growing up in a hurry, and depending on four freshmen, and Brady's a redshirt freshman. That is a big ask, even for Paige Bueckers, to try to drive home a championship. But I think UConn fans, for the most part, are extremely happy, as this is a fun team to watch, because you're seeing young players develop, which will guide the future. And then it looks like all signs are pointing for Paige Bueckers to return in 24-25 to play a season with her friends like AZ Fudd, and to try to get the elusive championship if they don't get it this year. And in theory, this team should be stacked in 24-25, as you would have AZ Fudd returning, but you wouldn't be dependent on her, which is nice because Ashlyn Shade has done so well. In theory as well, you would have Aubrey Griffin back, as she would likely exercise her 5th COVID year to rehab while at UConn, and she should be ready to go by January of next year. In addition, you would have freshmen coming in, so Allie Zabel and Morgan Shelley. And Shelley's like 6'2" and playing well. Zabel would just give you more depth in the backcourt that is already loaded. Now, if UConn was able to land from Sarah Strong, then they would be the prohibitive favorite, in my opinion, to win the championship in 24-25, depending on who's coming back for LSU and South Carolina. But that's a big if, as everybody's going after Sarah Strong, and it's just really unclear where she's going at this stage. So for this video and looking into the future, let's pretend that Sarah Strong is not coming to UConn. If that happens, where does that leave UConn? Well, that leaves them extremely, extremely dependent on Ice Brady developing this year, as well as Jana El-Alfi making a good recovery from her Achilles injury and being able to be the big that UConn desperately needs to match up if a team has a really big center, i.e. Lauren Betts, as that was the first piece that Gino lost from his original dream team in his mind that he had going into the 23-24 season, as he was complaining about the lack of height even before AZ Fudd went down with her knee injury. The other hope would be that Ayanna Patterson makes a good recovery from her recent knee surgery, as the hope would be that she would provide further depth and be able to throw her body around and just punish people on the boards and just give you extra fouls to give up during the game. And that is the scary prospect for 24-25, is you're really hoping on these three players that haven't done a hell of a lot. Ice Brady's starting to look a little bit better and seems to be catching on a bit, so you're hopeful for her. El Alfie looked good in the under-19 World Championship, but she wasn't the most mobile. Like, it takes her a while to change directions, and you could only think that that will be further slowed, at least at the start of next season, her coming off her Achilles injury. But she was never really going to be just flying around. Like, she was always going to be a bit of a positional defender, sort of like a Cardoso, sort of can move okay in space, but her height was the difference, as she's like 6'4", 6'5", and you just want her to be in the right place and grab the rebounds. In theory, she should be able to do that if she makes the good recovery. So that is only two, and that's depending on El Alfie making a good recovery, and then you're really putting a lot of hopes in Patterson to give you that depth, to give you three. And that is where UConn has to get very nervous, as she has not done anything or much in her time at UConn. She's been injured the whole time. And this knee, it just seems really unclear to me what is going on with it. As Gino originally said, it was a Morgan Tuck issue, who has no cartilage. And then after the recent procedure, they said it was a patella tendon, chronic patella tendonitis, but you just don't know. It's just weird and doesn't seem like it's been right for a long time. And why is it going to be right now would be my concern. And then other options of depth, I don't see Aaliyah Edwards coming back just because it's her chance to be the 3 pick now that Bueckers is likely coming back to UConn, and then he's just totally given up on DeBerry. Like, after that Kansas game, he's just like, no, I'm playing my best players. You're not one of them. She hasn't earned time, and I never see him trusting DeBerry again, basically. Well, that's not true. She might get one last shot against South Carolina, as they'll need somebody to match up with Cardoso. That'll be her last shot, I would suggest. And I guess I will throw it over to UConn fans for you to have your say. But if you're going into 24-25 and you're depending on your bigs being Ice Brady, El Alfie, and Patterson, do you feel good, confident, and think with everybody else returning, man, we are loaded and we will go? Or are you just nervous the whole time thinking, I don't know if we have enough up front? And I know there'll be comments about we need to go to the portal to get extra players and things like that, but I don't know what space UConn's going to have. It depends on who's coming back. One thing I would love to know, did UConn have a chance last year to get Lauren Gustin? Like, was she reaching out to UConn when she went in the transfer portal, or was she looking at Utah? I don't know, but Lauren Gustin on this current UConn team would have made their upside a lot better, in my opinion. Anyway, your thoughts, your comments. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.